Peak video conferencing was in 2020, and today we're still playing catch-up. Controversial, maybe. True, probably yes. The pandemic saw everyone working remotely, talking over video from personal devices. Colleagues saw well-framed head and shoulder shots. They were able to make eye contact, see body language. It was an equitable experience. And what's more, the camera systems didn't need to be sophisticated. They were built into the laptops that we were using already. Today, having been back to the office for years, camera manufacturers are still striving to achieve those same levels of equity, with mixed results. So let's deep dive into video conferencing cameras. What should we look for when choosing a camera? Should we buy video bars or standalone systems? How is AI changing the conferencing world? And what about multi-camera systems? Are these the way forward? Before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. I'm the Meeting Room Doctor. Let's open surgery. The camera is the window into your meeting room from the outside. Its job is to capture all participants clearly, in focus and suitably framed so remote participants feel involved, kind of as if they were sat in the meeting room with you. An equitable experience. Not only are cameras used to capture meeting participants, content cameras are used in meeting rooms to share notes written on whiteboards, and audience cameras are used to gauge reactions. There are many things to consider when choosing conference camera systems. Resolution is one of them. Resolution is the number of pixels used to make up an image. At a very simple level, the more pixels, the more detail the image has. Video conferencing platforms such as Microsoft Teams and Zoom recommend a 1080p or HD high definition image reaches them. Whilst resolutions below this amount can be sent, it will always be software stretched and potentially appear grainy. Cameras zoom themselves in two ways. Optically, uses the lens and a motorized base to adjust what is seen. The camera sensor received a zoomed in image but at full native resolution, which is then passed on to the video conferencing software. As the pan tilt zoom facility is motorized, it can sometimes be slightly slower to react though. Using electronic zoom, the camera is always presented with a full frame image. And to zoom in, the software selects an area and then uses software to pass that selection only to the video conferencing software. Whilst this is fast, it does have limitations. So if you imagine the camera is capturing the full high resolution image, but the software only needs, say, 50% of that area. The remaining 50% is stretched to fit on the screen, and this provides 50% less pixels and risks a grainy image. So to overcome that, manufacturers in a software zoom environment are using very, very high resolution cameras, up to 8K in some cases, or even multiple cameras where they're stitching the image together. Field of view. This describes the camera pickup, the height and the width, what it's capable of capturing. We care most about the width when it comes to meeting rooms. So if you imagine a huddle space, people sit very, very close to the screen or around a small table. So to capture those participants, you need either a very wide angle lens or you need something that will sit in the middle of the table and captures everybody around the table. Smaller rooms, by contrast, yes, people still sit close to the screen, but less so. There's generally a gap between the display and where the meeting room table starts. So you don't need quite as flexible and wide angle lens, but you're still looking at 120 to 180 degrees in those smaller spaces. Larger rooms generally are narrower and need to focus over a greater distance because there's more people sitting in there. So these use sort of 60 to 90 degree field of views generally, but also there's the option to have a mixed field of view. So actually a lot of these more sophisticated camera systems for larger rooms might have a couple of lenses built into them. One that's capturing at wide angle for people sitting closely and one that's capable of doing to the back of the room. So should we be looking at video bars or a standalone system? So conference cameras are available in both formats. The video bar is an all-in-one unit that's typically mounted underneath the display. And not only does it include the camera, it also has your microphones and your speakers. It's very, very, very widely deployed in small and medium-sized meeting rooms. It's super easy to install. Often a single USB cable connects into the system, and all of the brains and programming is held internally, so it's very, very easy to run, administer. Because of that, it's cost effective, and it's very easy to buy because generally the manufacturers will sell you a medium room specific meeting bar, which is great. The disadvantages though are that it's limited amount of customization. So if your room is slightly outside of the prescribed formats, then you need to look at something different. And also, because the microphone and the cameras are placed underneath the display wall, sometimes the performance can be slightly compromised. And really, probably one of the major challenges is that it's just not upgradable. So if you decide that you want to upgrade the camera to provide a better facility, you'll replace it in the entire unit. Similarly, if there's a failure. In a standalone environment, these are typically used in larger rooms or where you're wanting to separate out the audio from the video signal. It's often seen in larger spaces, and it's seen where you're using a kit bag of pro AV equipment. So you might have a complicated ceiling microphone system. And then matched alongside that, you'll have your camera system. The disadvantages really of these types of systems is that there's more install, and it's a slightly more complicated system to configure. But they do have their place. AI is the biggest contributor to delivering back that peak video conferencing experience we saw during the 2020s. Restoring equity to participants, using those or trying to deliver those head and shoulder shots so that people didn't appear that they were remote to the meeting. Essentially what we're trying to do is see and be seen, and that results in a much more productive and profitable meeting. So as a result, AI is now super important in camera systems. No longer will we accept clunky remote controls to adjust camera frames and other settings. Today we have a vast array of AI features that help conference cameras create an equitable experience. And some of the features that you might see built into cameras include speaker tracking. So this is a facility that will follow individuals as they speak. So especially usable in a stage environment. You have a camera that's pointed generally at the stage, and it can follow those stage presenters as they're walking around the stage, zooming in and creating that sort of dynamic video experience. A similar vein, we have sort of group framing technologies. So again, the camera automatically detects participants in a meeting room. And this might be a single participant or it might be a group of participants, but it will automatically frame and capture those attendees without excessive background so that people get close and feel as though that they're in that meeting rather than seeing more background than people. Something that's becoming increasingly popular, and it's sort of driving toward that head and shoulder shot that we're trying to strive for, that we saw during our working from home days, was that head and shoulder shot. And Gallery View and Microsoft's IntelliFrame both deliver that type of scenario. So the camera captures the participants and sat in front of them, but then will separate out head and shoulder shots for each person, presenting them separately on screen. The IntelliFrame goes a little bit further in the sense that it actually then sends those out to the software as separate feeds and has the ability to be able to name them as well. So those sort of advancements are really starting to come to the fore and are really, really exciting in our industry. Obviously, lighting is sometimes a challenge in meeting spaces, and cameras have built-in technology to compensate for poor lighting conditions, perhaps balance colours, so that participants look at their best. And then for ages we've had background filtering. So this might be about creating a professional background by replacing it with an image that, like we see on sort of a laptop-based experience. But equally, it could be not allowing the camera to focus on things that are in the background. So you might have a meeting room that is bordered with a glass wall, and you have people walking to and fro in the background. So you can configure active areas and allow those to be the areas only that are picked up, and it not get confused by people in the background. Again, just making sure that that experience is really, really good. Room analytics is fast becoming super important. So companies want to know how their rooms are being used. So if they have a 6-person room, is it being used by 6 people? Or is it just 1 or 2 people sitting in there all the time? Which rooms are most used, which rooms are used less? So a lot of systems now will have people counting and room analytics built into them, and we'll be able to provide that management intelligence so that decisions can be made about future office refurbishments and what size of rooms that people want. We touched a little bit earlier about whiteboard streaming. So often in meetings, people use whiteboards to support a conversation, perhaps doing calculations or making drawings. And that's great for those who are sitting in the room with the people who are making those notes. But if you're not sat in that room, you kind of feel detached from that process. So a whiteboard camera sits above the whiteboard and captures those notes and can be shared into meetings. Interestingly, the camera has AI built into it that allows you to be able to enhance the text and markings, remove any glare and shadows, and in a lot of cases as well, actually remove the person that's making the notes, so be able to remove the hand as it's writing. And these systems are supported by all the major ecosystems. Multi-camera systems are unlike traditional single camera setups. They're designed to be able to provide options on camera angles to be able to try and achieve the best possible visual experience for the remote participants. There are a number of ways multi-camera systems can be deployed. AI-directed multi-camera systems would have 3 or 5 cameras set up with different views configured. And then it will use an AI engine to be able to decide what that best view would be based upon who's having the discussion, and just being able to capture reactions and the dynamic discussions. A little bit similar to the way that a TV crew would film a meeting, but it's being able to try and create that and maintain interest. Huddly Crew is a really good example of a system that does that. You then have location-based systems, so these work in conjunction with compatible microphones, where they're passing the location data of where the sound is coming from, and that's telling the cameras to select a particular view. And then the cameras then track and zoom within that environment. So these work very well in very large spaces, or where speakers may be staged-based. And then lastly, the traditional operator-controlled multi-camera systems. So prior to AI, we had a person at a desk with a camera selector and controller. These obviously are available in sort of live events mainly these days, not particularly in a meeting room environment, but operators be able to swap between different camera sources and be able to control pan, tilt and zoom. So what do we recommend? Well, it really depends on the room and the audience and the flexibility that you need. There's kind of no one size fits all. So in a huddle room, for example, so that's the room with sort of 1 or 2 people, a wide angle camera would be perfect. So think 150 to 180 degrees, or even a 360 degree camera sitting on the desk in between everybody essentially. Standalone or video bar are both fine. It doesn't really matter which format. That's a personal choice. If you're moving then up to a smaller or a medium-sized room, you don't need that ultra-wide pickup. But with the AI, you can use that. So 120 to 180 degrees is absolutely fine. But In these cases, make sure you're looking out for group and speaker framing and perhaps even a gallery view, because in these slightly larger rooms, you're likely to have more participants and will take advantage of being able to either frame speakers nicely or being able to separate them out into separate head and shoulder shots. In large spaces, well, it's kind of dependent upon what that large space is. So if it's a standard meeting room, you might look at a camera system with sort of anything from 60 to 120 degrees, or even a system with multiple lenses to be able to capture across a wider depth. In these sorts of environments, the AI features are going to be really, really useful. So gallery view and speaker framing and group framing are going to be perfect. And then really the multi-camera systems are going to give you a real advantage here, because you're going to be able to capture people a lot better. There are many things to consider when looking at your next meeting room upgrade. At Meeting Room Doctor, we know this and we want to help. Whilst our videos are helpful, sometimes you just want professional guidance dedicated to your project. Well, I'm pleased to introduce Meeting Room Doctor Surgery and Meeting Room Doctor on your team. Meeting Room Doctor Surgery provides professional AV consultancy for a fixed fee per room. This package includes a professional assessment of your display screen sizes using industry formulas and matched to the plans of your room. We conduct a comprehensive reverberance assessment to ensure the room doesn't echo and performs at its best. And if needed, we can recommend acoustic treatments too. We provide AV elevation templates, and these guide construction teams on the exact placement of hardware, services and cable routes, vital to ensure the correct performance and the highest quality look for your meeting room. We make hardware recommendations. This includes all elements: display screens, cameras, microphones, speakers, conferencing hardware, the whole solution. We can also recommend Meeting Room Doctor approved install contractors, should you not have one already. Lastly, our comprehensive companion guide gives a deep dive into AV technologies and helps you understand the theory behind our recommendations. Meeting Room Doctor on your team is more hands-on, and it's designed for companies refurbishing or relocating over a longer period of time. The clue's in the name really. On your team means that we become part of your team for the duration of your project. In addition to surgery items, we want to immerse ourselves into your project. We want to fully understand your objectives, and we want to meet your team and become part of your technology vision. Let us help you define what success looks like in your meeting rooms. And then to understand the plans, the usage, the budget requirements, and to recommend ultimately the technical solution that will meet this. We can even introduce you to our Meeting Room Doctor approved installers, or we can work with your existing partners. During the build, we often join weekly project calls and act as a bridge between internal teams and construction and technology people. A simple conversation can quickly keep a project on track, ensuring success and avoid costly variations. Upon completion, we can verify the installation just to check that it meets those success criteria that we set out before, and we can also recommend ongoing support, training and the documentation requirements to make sure that your system works for the long term. Be sure to check out the link in the description for more information. If you found this video useful, check out our other Fundamentals series videos where we cover a wide variety of meeting room technologies and what AV professionals consider when they're looking at meeting spaces. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your support. Make sure to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Let's all agree, every meeting room deserves to be doctor approved. But for now, I've got other patients waiting. Meeting Room Doctor out.